Okay. So yeah, so that's just something that we need to talk about at some point in time, just to make sure that that's a huge one. Okay. Okay. So let's go through headquarters, just do a quick review of what goes on here. Remember, this is the global module where when I do something in here, it affects all the other modules, and that's why it's done here in the headquarters module. So let's go into companies, just to do a quick review. HQ company setup. This is just a one-time setup. This is where we set up our live company. If you go to the grid view, company 1 at some point in time is going to be our live company out there. And we will copy the setup from company 201 into company 1. 201 will always be out there as a test environment going forward. We can restrict security on who really would be working in tests going forward. Last thing you want is people going into the test company thinking they're working in the live company. So usually you know who the people that would be testing new features or different functionality would be probably this high-level group sitting in these meetings. Everybody else at some point in time, you'll cut off their access to a test environment right before go live, because then they've been trained and they know how to go into the company 1, because all security is by company, by module, by whatever you want within that module. Okay? Cool. So cancel out of there, but that's kind of the goal of the whole thing. So then all these other things. Now earn types, earn types are used for mapping and also for T&M billing purposes. So go to earn types here. Go to your grid view. When we start looking at payroll and where things are going to be mapped as far as expenses, if different types of earnings need to go to different places, which so far I haven't necessarily run into any, but we'll go through that. For instance, per diem. Some people say, hey, I want per diem on my financial statements to go somewhere other than salary and wages. You know how you have your salary and wages busted up, and then your payroll taxes, your union benefits, your workers' comp, and all those things. Some people say, hey, based upon a certain type of earnings. So salaries and wages is certainly one important part of your financial statements, but is there anything that you do not want considered part of salary? Do you guys do a lot of per diem, or, you know, normally if people do a lot of travel, they say, hey, I don't want to see my traveling per diem in with my salary and wages. I want to see that separately or something like that. So that's where earn types are. And if we don't need more earn types, I've got a reimbursement earn type in there. They need to be mapped. One of the things a lot of customers like to do is, instead of using AP checks to do reimbursements, to reimburse people, so then I need a one-to-one relationship between earn types. So you see 25 through 40, pull that to the right. We must as well knock this out and finish setting it up. Go to payroll setup and go to your earnings codes here, please. So this is what we set up. So when you do a time card, everybody gets paid. Go to the grid view, please. One of these earnings codes. So this is where we're ultimately, pull up that list right to the side, if you don't mind, will be HQ earn types. So basically for every earnings code, and remember, this is in payroll, when we do a time card, you must choose one of these. So usually, now is parking, is that a taxable or a non-taxable parking? Non-taxable, you're probably reimbursing them for parking when you work downtown and all these places. So starting in the 20s, now is vehicle usage, click on vehicle usage and hit the deductions and liabilities. I can see here that federal taxes and everything, it will be the basis of that. So that's a taxable earnings. Go back to the grid view. Oops, I forgot about this little touch screen. I keep touching it and messing with it. So go back to the grid view there, please, up the earnings code. I think what our intention was, starting maybe at the 20 all the way down, what we need to do is say, what are the usual suspects of reimbursement? And the reason you have to, when you enter time cards, you are not selecting an expense account. It is mapped on an HQ earn type in the department master, so that when you grab parking, it automatically maps it to the parking expense account. but it uses the HQ earn type to do it. So
then,
Yes.
so to set these up, they have to be set up in the HQ earn types, the different types of reimbursements that we're gonna have, correct?
I
And then
recommend setting them up here first,
in the payroll.
starting at 20, and then in a parallel thing, set them up there. So there's no sense 20. Notice how we have 20 parking and 20 parking. So for each earn code, if you scroll to the right at the bottom, there's going to be an earn type, and it's sitting right over here. A couple more columns to the right. Oops, it's 3 columns. See this earn type? 20 will be mapped to 20. 21 will be mapped to 21, 22, 23. And then I use the earn type to map to the general ledger in the next step on the payroll departments and the job cost departments. So what we need here is a final list because, as I stated, during time entry, the person doing time entry will not have to say, I'm choosing parking, what general ledger expense account does that go to? By choosing it, in the background, we've already mapped it to the parking expense, and it knows where to go. Yeah.
So, okay, so basically setting up all your different reimbursements in the payroll earning code, and then you have to set them up in the HQ earn types to map those over there.
Thank you.
Then where do you go to map them to
Okay.
the GL?
The department.
Funny how you should ask. So let's go look at that, Will.
That's what we're missing right
So
now.
let's go to
Yeah, I
this
know.
step. So main menu.
I would never.
And go to the department master. Remember, departments are general ledger mapping tools. That's all they do. So then when you go to the earn types here, so now, if we went ahead and hit, now 15 is on there. If you click into there and hit F4, this is going to be a list of all those earn types we just looked at in the prior things. And then this is where, if you pull that to the side, Will, this is where I map it. So fuel would be going to fuel, or parking would go into a parking expense. All these would go in there and you bang, bang, bang. And we need to do it on the JC department master as well. So the homework on this is historically, and are you guys currently using AP or are you using payroll?
No,
to do
it goes through
reimbursement?
payroll.
Payroll still.
It just,
Do you have a list of the usual suspects?
I have a general idea. I mean, there's a
15.
core that, yeah, I can set up. You know, the thing is that this is one of the homework items, but I would never, from a little blurb, been able to know that I would have had to go.
Well, just to have the
all
list,
these
because once I get the list, I can pump it in here. It'll take me 5 minutes to get it in the system. The thing is getting the list.
Yeah,
Getting that final list is
And I
what I
think-
need. We can pop it in here. Now, the payroll mapping takes a little longer, but we can get the earnings codes and the HQ codes in. Then you've got to go to each department and tell the department, use all of those earn types to map it. So that
So
takes a
now-
little bit longer.
so now,
Yes.
with setting it up, so you're setting it up as an earning code and earn type, you go into the payroll department master, set it up there, but you're only setting
And
it.
JC department
And the
master as
JC
well.
department master.
Yes.
But how do you set up one, so for parking, how do you set up one parking code that we would have the capability of hitting different departments, divisions and departments?
Go to the grid.
Right?
So each of these has an earnings
Oh,
types
okay.
tab, and
Okay,
each of
payroll
those would point to
department.
You
the
gotta do,
associated
every single
department.
one needs all that list.
Yeah, this is the
Okay.
time-consuming portion.
Okay.
Just knocking out the earnings types and the earnings codes are fast.
Mhm.
It's getting them in here and making sure we
It's kind of
associate
similar
them.
to the class.
Yeah.
You have to go in and,
Yeah.
and do it for, okay.
Yeah, so like under JC, if we look at that, because that's where I'm the furthest on.
Yeah, so if it's a job-related one, go to JC Department Master, remember the hierarchy goes, and then go to the grid. So these are all the JC
We
departments.
got them all the way
So
down.
if it's a job-related expense and it's a reimbursement for anybody that is job costing it, the same rule applies here. Except for normally here, they're gonna be in the cost of goods sold account. They're gonna be in the
Yeah.
5,000 account. They're not gonna be up there in the overhead.
Yeah.
So,
So we
depends-
started these here,
That is
and then
correct.
these,
Which these
we
These
changed the
need to
HQ
change,
earn types,
yeah.
right? And we changed the naming and such, so when I came back here, they were all TBDs. I was like, oh, what happened? You know?
Yeah,
And then we figured that out, that we have to redo the earn types. So once we get that done, that's our predecessor to
Yeah.
finish the departments.
okay.
Yeah.
So, and I know, so we have an earn type in there for the whole vehicle usage, but I know that that was something that, wasn't the vehicle usage similar to the vehicle fringe, what we were referencing? So have we figured what we're doing? Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, but those earn types, they are mapping tools to the general ledger.
Okay,
So we do need to hammer that out. What would make sense is to get that final list, be done with the earnings code, be done with the HQ types, do it on one or two departments so that you got your marching orders, and then it just has to be replicated
yeah.
over and over based upon the
Which
department.
really, that
mapping.
doesn't take very long. I mean, I
Yep.
did the craft class.
Yep.
And it doesn't take that long.
No, once you get on
do
the
that,
roll.
once you- Yeah,
And are you using kind of that double mapping where you pull it up twice? That's a nice feature, isn't it? You can use one that's set up properly, pull the same program up twice, and make sure you're kind of consistent methodology for that so that the setup is streamlined. That's a good feature.
yes.
Okay. So that was kind of what we got to do. So let's get that done this week. So I can check that off my list, you know. So that, just so you know, so basically what we're saying here is I need an earn type, and let's think of it in two different ways. My taxable earn types would be on a financial statement. What do I want separated from salary and wages?
Password for the Wi-Fi, I didn't remember it. Sorry. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. So as you saw in that one, if you want your auto usage separate from salaries and wages, that's a perfect reason to have a separate.
Well, yeah, you have.
And then
to-
for the reimbursements, for sure, because all your reimbursements normally go to different expense areas,
Yeah,
based upon what kind of reimbursements. So your taxable earnings, salaries, a lot of stuff can go to salaries, but anything that doesn't want to go to salaries in the taxable, I would need an earn type for that. Then
Yeah.
the non-taxable ones, I usually need a one-to-one relationship between those, because I would need an HQ earn type for every different, you
all the
know,
different
yeah,
reimbursements.
postage, you know,
Yeah,
meals and entertainment, parking, you know the usual suspects that you get reimbursed for.
yeah. So, and I think the thing is so the vehicle allowance is one type, and then basically, I think it's still being discussed in the sense of the vehicle usage or the vehicle fringe on the, more on the field side, how that's gonna be handled. 'Cause that's that whole thing where it's kind of added in for it to be taxed, and then it's taken back
Yeah,
out.
it's an in out.
So,
The in
but I
is the
think
earnings,
that,
the out is the
I
deduction.
think there's been some discussion on possible different ways of
Alternate ways.
handling that. Whether,
Though your system had a way, it was a taxable fringe. Vista does not have a taxable fringe, so it has to do an in earnings with an out deduction. The in to get it in, the out for the same amount to get it out. So that was part of the taxable basis for tax purposes. So we use the in-out approach because we do not have a concept called a taxable fringe.
so
Does
you
not
have to set up
exist.
as an earning and then also as a
And
liability.
it would show up on the
Deduction.
check too. So we were gonna talk to the CPAs about an alternate solution possibly.
So, okay.
Yeah, and so the Vista, that's how we would have to do it if we were to do that in Vista, because we do not have that taxable fringe functionality. Okay? Okay, so let's have that on our goal to, are you probably 90% done with your list of reimbursement codes and stuff?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. No, like I
I just have
said,
to sit and think about all the different ones that,
all the different
that
variables.
come through. And I mean, we can come up with the core, maybe main 10,
Okay.
15 or something. to
Because
at least
once we
it
get to the
started.
mapping, we're gonna go to the departments and be nice to have them all, because otherwise you'll have to revisit it and go into all of them and re-add them. So if we
Well,
can
yeah,
get the list done, then that helps us streamline the setup and we can go on to the next thing.
but ultimately, if we have, even after we roll out Vista,
you kinda
once we
have
have
more
new ones, then,
You certainly
and
will know where
Margaret,
that.
one thing we could do is run through Dimension and pull from the Maxwell history. We can pull in the income statement, G&A accounts, which accounts we've hit with reimbursements through a payroll source journal.
Okay.
I can help.
For the last 2 years and see what the usual
Yeah, and we
suspects
can
would
see
be.
which accounts we
and
hit,
just throw 'em
which
all in
will
there.
kind of flag us on where the common hits are. I know the parking and the mileage and some of the obvious ones, but
Mhm.
that would help.
Perfect.
Rather than trying to guess, you have some
Yeah.
documentation trails.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's people you should do go back 2 years and say, what are the usual suspects? And-
Yeah, because we can say we're looking just for the payroll journal in those accounts.
Yes, for sure.
Am I doing that through the general ledger?
Through Dimension, yeah, I'll help you with that.
Okay. Okay, so that, to go back to headquarters programs, there's really a four-headed monster that we would go to. We would go to earn codes, earn types, then we'd go to our departments. And we would add those to the departments. Okay, and I guess we have actually, we haven't got to it, but just to introduce you to the concept this week, we would have 4 places to go to. Well, actually 3, I lied, because equipment departments would only be used if you had mechanics and stuff. And since you're outsourced that to your enterprise, that is not applicable to you guys. It'll be payroll departments, JC departments, and service departments that we're going to be setting up this week for mapping, if any of those would be a reimbursement to the service department. Okay?
Yeah, so there's
So that's
there's also a service department master that would have to be.
You haven't seen that yet, but we're going to be setting that up this week, and that would come into play for any
Okay.
service reimbursements.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. So FYI, that's kind of the rest of the story on those earn types, and that is a little tricky, Margaret, so I don't blame you for going, oh.
I would never have.
It's kind of funky. It goes from earnings code, earnings type to the department. And if I've got that, then everything comes together there and for mapping purposes. Okay.